When you think of the most secretive societies in the current world, North Korea is undoubtedly the first country that comes to mind. It is one of the most isolated nations on Earth, with very few outsiders ever allowed to enter, and even fewer North Koreans permitted to leave. Due to strict government control, international sanctions, and a long history of secrecy, air travel to and from North Korea has been quite rare. However, it hasn't been rarer ever before than now. Currently in 2025, there are only 3 commercial flights from the capital city of North Korea to Beijing and Shenyang in China and Vladivostok in Russia. These flights are not even regular and are operated just 3 times a week, totaling up to 9 flights per week, which in the current world is mind-blowing. Just as a wild comparison, a developed country with nearly the same population, like Taiwan, operates above 4,000 flights. The airline that operates to and from North Korea is Air Koryo. It is North Korea's national carrier and the only airline in the country. Established in 1955, it was once part of a larger network connecting North Korea to various Soviet states, but now has been reduced to just 3 cities. The airline itself doesn't have a stellar reputation, and has consistently been rated as the world's only 1-star airline by Skytrax, with aging Soviet-era aircraft and limited services. The airline only has 9 aircraft, 7 of them being decades old, with a few over 40 years old and still being used. Today, Air Koryo is the only airline with scheduled passenger flights flying out of Pyongyang, and the only other airline which operated previously, Air China, has discontinued its operations. So, what is the purpose of these flights? Is it just for tourism? And why are there just these 3 routes? Well, first of all, these flights serve different purposes, and tourism is just a part of it. While most people are reluctant to visit North Korea, it turns out there's still some people who like to travel out there, particularly the Chinese, which takes us to the most important flight route from North Korea. Beijing serves as North Korea's main gateway to the world, and it is also the oldest route out of these 3. It began in the 60s, and since has been on and off depending on the political situations. The reason this is the most important flight is because this flight is crucial for North Korean government officials, diplomats, and select business travelers. As you might know, North Korea is heavily dependent on China. China is North Korea's biggest trading partner, and is also a major investor in North Korea's mining and metallurgical industries, including steel and iron, copper, coal, and rare earth minerals. So this trade partnership leads to several meetings, for which officials from both sides consistently use this flight, since it connects both the capital cities. Secondly, this flight is the route which most tourists coming to North Korea use, particularly because of the large network of destinations from Beijing, but also because the most common touring agencies that organize trips to North Korea conduct their trips from here. Now, the second international flight heads to Vladivostok in Russia, which is a major port city and also the largest Russian city on the Pacific Ocean. This route is significant because North Korea and Russia have maintained close ties, especially in recent years, as North Korea seeks to reduce its reliance on China. This flight mainly serves a few tourists, diplomats, and officials conducting business with Russia. Russia is one of the few countries that still engage with North Korea. Just in recent times, Russia reportedly purchased millions of shells and rockets from North Korea to aid in its invasion of Ukraine, and in 2024, North Korea also sent workers to Russia, which lacks a workforce due to the war. The third and least well-known of these flights is the Pyongyang to Shenyang route. Shenyang, located in northeastern China, is home to a significant population of ethnic Koreans and has historical ties to the Korean peninsula. This flight is an important link, particularly for trade. North Korean traders and business people trusted by the government often use this route, as Shenyang serves as a hub for commerce between China and North Korea. Many of the goods that sustain North Korea's fragile economy come through this region. The flight also provides a more convenient entry point for North Koreans who have business dealings in China but want to avoid the scrutiny that comes with traveling through Beijing. So, in a nutshell, these routes are all linked to North Korea's economy, politics, and tourism. And now we come to the second question, which is why North Korea doesn't have routes to other destinations in China and Russia, and also to other allied countries. So there are a couple of factors that affect North Korean air routes. First, North Korea has the strictest sanctions on the country imposed by the UN, individual nations, and intergovernmental organizations. And because of these sanctions, even if North Korea wanted to, they cannot expand. You see, not much long ago, North Korea used to serve more destinations, like Macau, Shanghai, Singapore, and even destinations in Europe. But multiple sanctions led to countries being pressured to cancel these flights. While there were several different sanctions put on North Korea over the years, the biggest ones were implemented by the United Nations in 2006 because of North Korea's nuclear program, and then in 2017, when a North Korean ballistic missile test landed just a little bit too close to Japan. These UN sanctions hit North Korea hard and banned North Korean labor exports, reducing demands for flights to the Middle East, and restricted North Korean businesses abroad, cutting economic ties, which ultimately led to cancellations of some routes, including Singapore and 2 other routes in the Middle East. But not all routes were cut because of sanctions. Before the UN 2017 sanctions, North Korea had routes to Europe as early as the 2000s, but Air Koryo planes and services were considered dangerous by European standards, and because of the safety and maintenance concerns, Europe banned Air Koryo from flying anywhere in Europe. Although when Air Koryo received new planes later, the newer planes were allowed, but the routes were never able to revive. Primarily because, due to the sanctions, North Korea had been cut off from international markets, which prohibited them from getting new airplanes and restricted aviation fuel and spare parts, which left them with limited planes. Moreover, North Korea's economy also plays a role. Maintaining international flights is expensive, and without a thriving tourism industry or significant business travel, there's little financial incentive to expand operations. Also, North Korea doesn't have several modern planes that can cover long distances, nor can they buy them. So these destinations are what they're left with. Today in 2025, these 3 are the only flights that take off from North Korea. However, these are just the passenger flights. There have been reports of unlisted cargo and diplomatic flights to places like Iran and Syria, likely related to military cooperation. However, details about these flights remains largely a secret, and nobody knows when they're going to fly next. Now, the question remains, could North Korea ever expand its flight network? Given current sanctions and political tensions, it's unlikely in the near future. However, if diplomatic relations improve, we could see new routes open to other friendly nations, like Vietnam or Mongolia. North Korea has expressed interest in reviving its tourism sector, which could lead to more international flights if conditions change. But with current situations, not much is going to change soon.